So I'm speaking for myself, right? In the Houston Astros fan community, I guess Houston Astros media community, you can say, and however that overlaps. I'm speaking for myself, and I'm also asking as I post this, I'm asking for any baseball expert, hitting coach, heck, former league insider or league player, or just anyone with baseball expertise who can help guide a novice, guide an ignorant person, right? Like layman's terms, me, right? So I just wrapped up listening to Dana Brown's interview today with, Sean Salisbury, Sports Talk 790, right? Um, and let me start with the positives. Dana Brown, he didn't shy away, right? Like, he didn't hang up the phone. He didn't get, as far as I know, he didn't get upset and snap back at Sean, right? Um, you know, he answered questions, and I'm going to get to what I'm going to say about his response, but I'm giving him credit first. He answered questions. I guess, I think at the end he got a bit stronger in his responses, but for the most part, look, you see that it's about 26 minutes, almost 30 minutes. He hung in there, right, talking to Sean back and forth, right? Okay. He showed up, right? Okay. Having said that, and I'm saying this for myself, asking any baseball aficionados or experts to correct me. I'm looking for advice. I'm looking for redirection. I'm looking for somebody to guide help guide my way of thinking with this. For me, I feel like this is one of the worst interviews I've ever heard from Dana Brown. For me, not speaking of anybody else. And I'll explain why. I feel like this was one of the worst interviews I've ever heard by Dana Brown in this kind of setting, and here's why. Take out the recent stretch of futility. Take that out. Well, leave that in for context, but let's take it out. For me, my concern for the longest time with Dana Brown was that he's a guy who, of course, a part of the game as a general manager or as a public figure in this kind of situation is, of course, you're not going to give away all your strategies, all your secrets, right? You're not going to divulge everything, because a part of your job is you got to protect home, right? Like, you don't overly expose guys in the media. You don't bark at guys through the media. You handle a lot of things in house, right? But see, with Dana Brown, for a while now, my nitpick with Dana Brown is that he's word salad guy. He says a lot of stuff without saying anything at all. Sometimes he'll give you little things here and there to give him some credit, but for the like this, speaking about this interview today, right here, with everything being on fire, that dog meme, right? Like the whole building's on fire and the dog's in there, like, yep, this is fine. Dana Brown sat there with Sean Salisbury. Um, you know, Matter of fact, let me go this way. Sean Salisbury, as I said, with Dana having one of the worst interviews I've ever heard, Sean Salisbury, this is one of the best ones for me, given the situation, because Sean Salisbury, he's normally unafraid of asking the tough questions. What I respected about today's interview is that Sean Salisbury did not allow Dana Brown to try to wiggle his way out of answering these questions. He continued to pepper him with the same, like, variations of the same, variations of a question. But for the most part, he continued to reframe Dana right back into where he wanted him to be, which was, of course, the overall team has been struggling, but specifically this offense, who's been one of the worst in baseball the entire season. Yes, injuries, okay. But systemically, ideologically, philosophically, practically, on the field, and on every level that you can, conceive, this has been one of the biggest failures across the league, this Houston Astros offense, right? And Sean Salisbury did an amazing job of continuing, no matter what Dana said, continue to bring him right back to the question of, Dana, X's and O's wise, what is wrong with his offense? And this is where the worst part of Dana's responses came in for me yet. As I mentioned earlier, Dana Brown, he's very good, proficient at talking a lot without saying anything. And it's not to be insulting. Like, this is just a pattern of behavior that I've seen and I've listened to Dana. And what I found grossly unfair was that he essentially, when Sean was asking him, like, how do you solve this? Where do you go from here? We all understand that Yordan Alvarez at his best is arguably a top 3 to top 5 bat in baseball, right? We can agree with that. Okay. For Dana Brown to basically spend the majority, if half of, if not the majority of this interview with Sean Salisbury, essentially laying the responsibility of the offensive turnaround on Yordan Alvarez's shoulders, even though he didn't directly say that. But if you go listen to the interview, listen to how many times that Dana Brown brings the conversation to just Yordan. That for me was grossly unfair. He may not have meant to, so I'm trying to be understanding, but based off how Dana Brown answers Sean's questions, right? He essentially said that Yordan Alvarez by himself is the key to turning everything around. And if it's him in the lineup, then everyone else is going to benefit. I'm sorry. Since when did one player in baseball make you a World Series team? Since when did one player in baseball give you the golden ticket to turning this mess around, right? And Sean asked a great follow-up question. He said, okay, well, what if you plunk Yordan in this situation and an opposing pitcher says, well, okay, well, listen, I'll just give you base or I'll just pitch around you. These other guys can't beat me. And Dana didn't answer that question. It's not as good as I wish he would, right? Since when did one guy make a World Series team? Because there's a team in our division in the Angels who had 2 Hall of Famers who have been historically bad. While we've been winning championships and going to ALCSs, they had Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout. They've done nothing for years. Nothing. Still doing nothing. Nothing, right? So Dana Brown's whole thing was, when Yordan comes back, the whole season's going to turn around. For me, that tells me that you have a poor view of, well, let me watch my words. For me, that comes off like a very flawed perspective of how the team build. Look, Dana Brown, he's forgotten more baseball than I'll ever know, right? As the cliche goes. But whether it's in basketball, football, baseball, whatever the sport, when you're that dependent on one guy, whether you mean to or not, that is not a well-built roster. That is not instilling confidence in the fan base, in that franchise and organization, that you have layers of guys who can perform. Because what you're kind of saying is these other guys, you're talking right past them and you're saying, we're waiting on this one guy and then everything's going to be fixed. Yordan's not going to fix this mess. This is not a matter of this team scoring like 3 to 4 runs a game or 5 to 6 and they need a hammer in the middle of the lineup. This team can't score at all. The way they approach at bats is poor. They talked about grit and grind on the show, right? And Sean, again, home run questions. He said, when does grit and grind lead to production? Like, when is that? And Dana, again, which made it bad for me, Dana Brown talked around the question and didn't answer it effectively. So anyway, I'm at 8 minutes now. But for me, it's unfair to put the entire rest of the season on Yordan's shoulders. Dana Brown did nothing for me to encourage me or motivate me toward the rest of the season. It sounded a lot like he was trying to just spin it and make the best of a bad situation, which, I'm sorry, but as one of the leaders of a franchise who knows what championship winning is, it comes off as very much a loud, underperforming culture where you won't hold guys accountable, you won't say what needs to be said, and I'm not saying like you just owe it to us like we're entitled, but I've seen a bunch of coaches, a bunch of players who respectfully and with integrity on a hot mic has held themselves and teams and teammates accountable as warranted. And the fact that Dana Brown, Joe Espada, and a bunch of guys in that organization refuse to do it, that's concerning to me. It's problematic. And when you put the rest of the season on Yordan Alvarez's shoulders, if it goes wrong, guess what? You look even worse. So for me, I'm sorry. This is one of the worst interviews I've ever heard from Dana Brown. I wish to never hear that kind of talk again. I know he's not going to give us everything, right? He shouldn't have to. But this whole ideology of like one guy changes everything and just excusing all the other things and, oh, it's just injuries, we'll be okay. That tells me a whole lot. I'm sorry. I'm out on this interview. Credit to Sean Salisbury. I'm sorry. This is one of Dana Brown's worst interviews I've ever heard. I'm sorry. I vehemently reject much of his premises, what he stands on. But baseball's a long season, so I guess. But This one wasn't it for me. So